Our Parshas Shelach begins with Moshe sending the Meraglim, sending the spies, sending the people to check out the land. Shlach lecha anoshim, send these people. Anoshim, who are these people? So the Torah lists off who they are. But Rashi and the Mefarshim note that Anoshim connotes people of importance, that they were ksherim, and that unfortunately they veered off the path. And many different approaches are given as to what their problem was, what exactly caused their demise and caused them to speak Lashon Hara about Eretz Yisrael. But there's a very strange medrash on that same pasuk of Shlach lecha anoshim, which many seem to understand as meaning chashuvim, important people. The medrash says, Shlach lecha anoshim, zeh shamar kasav kachometz lashinayim ukashon leinayim keinu atzel l'sholchav. That the pasuk in Mishlei, which talks about that just like vinegar is terrible to the teeth and smoke to one's eyes, so too is the person who is lazy. What does that have to do with the Meraglim? Of many descriptions we might give and many faults they might have had, it doesn't seem to be that they were lazy. They schlepped the fruit back, they brought a report, they went to all parts of the land. Maybe they had special siyata d'shmai in order to be able to cover the length and the width. But lazy? Why is it that the Medrash describes them as lazy? I saw a very interesting approach quoted from a sefer, the Das Shraga. And he suggests as follows, that the laziness that we are speaking of in the Medrash and the Chazal are trying to highlight was not that they were too slow to get up in the morning and that they were sluggish and that they wouldn't move. It was an intellectual laziness. It was the inability to see past whatever their agenda was. They went in maybe with some preconceived notions, whether it was that they were going to have to leave the midbar and being unable to eat from the hands of Hashem anymore, whatever it is, when they saw things that were happening, they did not take the time to reflect in an honest way. And that's very dangerous. As Chazal tell us, they saw that there were people dying all over the place. They said, this is a terrible land. Eretz Ochelos Yoshvei. It's a land that's filled with plagues and terrible, terrible things. It's not a place where we're going to survive. And yet, the Medrash tells us they missed it. They forgot and they didn't understand, they didn't appreciate. Not that they forgot, they didn't even appreciate the fact that it was a nace from Hashem, that they were so preoccupied with the funerals of the people that were going on that they didn't notice that there were spies there. It was for their own good, it was for their own protection. But that's what happens when we have an agenda. That's what happens when we're not willing to look at things with a clear head, with a clear mind. Shlach lecha anoshim tells us that we can't be lazy. And it's a difficult challenge because it's not always easy to see our own biases. It's not always easy to see that there's something else that's driving us or that's pushing us or that is tinting our view on reality. And that is what the Meraglim are missing. And that is what we need to take away. We need to understand that even people as great as the Meraglim, if they're looking through a filter which is tinted and which has a certain angle to it, then you're not going to be able to see things in the right way. And it can lead to a terrible, terrible situation. So that's what the Medrash says, that there was a certain element of laziness. And when we pay attention, when we take time to reflect on our lives, if we pause each day for a little bit of time to think about what we've experienced, about the brachos in our lives, about whatever we are going through, and realize that it comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And what does it mean? And how do we interpret it? And what do we do with everything that we're experiencing? Then we live a different type of life. That's the goal, is to be reflective, is to not assume that we have all the answers, but to constantly be looking to grow, to perceive, and to keep looking at things differently. Not to be lazy, not to be that atzel, not on a physical level, not on an intellectual level. And when we see that, and then when hopefully the message of the Meraglim will be one that resonates with us as being something that we need to learn from, we need to aspire to the heights of realizing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu impacts our lives in different ways, but it's only when we're willing to pause and see things through that clear window that we're able to appreciate those brachos and hopefully appreciate everything that He does for us and gives us that new, fresh perspective in our lives.